Right here with the name. Good evening and welcome to the City of Riviera Beach Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Today is Thursday, October 12th, 2023. It is now approximately 6:30 p.m. If you wish to speak on any items on this agenda, please complete a public comment card and provide it to the Planning and Zoning staff. Cards must be submitted prior to board discussion of an item. Thank you. Let us now have a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Frank Fernandez,
Here.
William Wiley, Anthony Brown,
Here.
James Gallen,
Here.
Renee Burgess,
Here.
Margaret Shepherd. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any acknowledgement of board member absence notifications?
No, I don't have, I haven't received any.
Thank you. Any additions or
Oh.
deletions to the agenda?
Okay, my apologies, Mr. Chair. I was just informed that Mr. Wiley advised of his absence for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mr. Sermons, anybody? No? Any additions or deletions?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
We have no meeting minutes to approve, so there's no approval of minutes. According to this, we have no unfinished business. Am I correct? Okay, now we move on to new business.
Item 7A, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending Chapter 31 zoning of the Land Development Code of the City of Riviera Beach at Article 5, Section 31-1, definitions, Section 31-281, to update purpose of the office and professional zoning district, Section 31-282B, special exception uses to update allowed uses, providing for conflicts, severability, an effective date, and other purposes.
All right, good evening. I am Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services for the City of Riviera Beach. The first item on your agenda tonight related to the Office Professional Zoning District is an applicant-initiated zone change. This zone change aims to expand the allowable uses in the Office Professional Zoning District. And to aid in this discussion, your handouts in front of you first have a zoning map of the City of Riviera Beach. And the first attachment under it is the proposed modifications to the zoning district office professional. And if everyone has found that, I will highlight the limited changes that are proposed here. So one, there's a proposed expansion of the described purpose within our code of the Office Professional District, and it aims to clarify that in addition to the offices and residential uses allowed in the zoning district, that the district also intends to provide for ancillary uses that complement and enhance office uses. So the aim of the applicant here is to allow the uses that complement higher level office buildings and the amenities that are provided to the employees there, such as fitness studios and restaurant uses, to be provided on site. Staff is in support of the proposed amendments here, which would include adding restaurants boutique fitness studios to the allowable uses via special exception in this zoning district. However, as you would have read in the staff report, we are recommending that cafes, what is listed under number 5 on here, be not included, as we find that the definition of restaurant is sufficient to cover the cafe use. Otherwise, staff is supportive of this amendment, and we agree with the applicant that it would allow additional viability in the office professional zoning district within the city. To end the staff description on this item, we would like to note that on the zoning map, which is before you, there is only one small corner of the city on Singer Island at the intersection near Blue Heron, East Blue Heron, and North Ocean Drive that has the office professional zoning district. So if this amendment is approved, it would have limited immediate effects. Of course, this is a zoning district, so someone in a different part of the city can request the zoning district, and the changes would again allow for those ancillary uses for offices. But initially, the impacts of this text amendment would be limited to that area that is currently zoned as office professional. Again, staff is supportive of this applicant requested text amendment, and this would include our presentation, but we are here in case there are any questions, and the applicant as well is here and ready to present and speak on their item.
Mr. Allen, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Ms. Burgess?
I do not have any questions at this time.
Mr. Brown?
No questions.
I do, I'm sorry. So coffee shops are like places like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, that would fall under restaurants?
Yes. Yes, we do not see in terms of regulations, we don't see a significant enough difference between cafes and restaurants to add it as a different term in our code.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
So it's
ma'am.
the same licensing requirements, whether you have a cafe or a restaurant or just a coffee?
Yes, the
shop?
city would consider you a restaurant in any scenario, and as far as we're concerned, the licensing work and BTR requirements would not differ from one to the other.
But what are they looking to do there specifically at the building? I know right now there's the large parking lot on the side and it's an office building, if I recall, correct? But what are they looking to do in that building that they're requesting an amendment to OP?
Well, I would yield to the applicant to talk about their specific aspirations on this specific property. This text amendment would be universal and it would change the zoning district itself. It would not give them any authorizations to install a certain use or type of development there. This text amendment would allow these uses via special exception. So if any of them were proposed at that site, it would have to be brought before this board and city council for special exception approval. But this text amendment in itself would not allow this property owner to install any of those uses in itself.
Okay, let's hear from the
Yes, Mr. Chair,
representative for the property.
I will make way for them.
And when you take the podium, please identify yourself and how you're related to the project. Thank you. And good evening.
Hello. My name is Sarah Thompson. I'm here representing the applicant. Again, Clarence did a great job giving a brief overview of what we're trying to do here and the text amendment that we are proposing and the changes we want to make. I can make this quick. I can make this brief. I know that everybody wants to get out of here, but I can go through what we have to present if you'd like, or we're here to answer any questions as well.
Basically, I'm looking to find out what exactly it is that you're looking for permission to place
So
in the existing
yes,
facility.
so the applicant right now has several proposed or potential tenants to take that space, which may be a restaurant, it may be a cafe, it may be a fitness studio. But given, as Clarence explained, that these uses aren't permitted within the OP district at this time. So our first step in this process is to get these added to the code. And then from there, if this is approved, we will move on and submit a special exception application, come back in front of you all, and then hopefully have a little bit more of an idea of who will be in this location.
So this is basically allowing you the opportunity to come back
Yes.
to our team,
Yes.
present your plan to them, and then come back to the board and say, this is what I want to do.
Yes, exactly.
And it's subject to review by a special exception. And as you know, board members, there are approximately 8 standards that they will have to meet, as well as submit a site plan. So you'll be taking a look at all those things.
And I assume our prospective developer is aware of our requirements?
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yes.
sure they
Oh,
are.
yes, they're very aware.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board at this time?
Chair, I do. I'm looking at the site map, and I do have on my contacts, but I am scanning, looking for the OP area on here, and I do not see it.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Because of the size of the text, the letters are not clearly discernible here. But if you look at the magenta color on Singer Island, just north of where East Blue Heron Boulevard would be, just north of the thick blue line indicating the CRA boundaries, that magenta color is the OP zoning district. And it is the only place right now where we have parcel zoned OP.
So right above the pink where it says RMH-15.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, right next to there is where it would be.
Oh, there's no OP on here, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right here. Okay. All right, thank you. I know when you
Problem.
said Blue Heron, I was trying to figure it out, but that clarifies it. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Are there any further questions that I can help with, or?
Brown? Mr. Brown?
How many parcels are zoned OP?
I think it's very limited. I think it's only in this area for the people that are zoned OP.
Yes, I think there's a cluster of parcels right there. I don't have the exact number, but that's the only place in the city where there's currently OP zoned parcels.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Then we shall proceed to a vote.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve amending Chapter 31 zoning of the Land Development Code of the City of Riviera Beach, Article 5, Section 31-1, definition sections 31-281 to update the purpose of the Office and Professional Zoning District, Section 31-282B, special exception uses to update allowed uses, providing for conflict severability and an effective date and other purposes.
Seconded.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
could I clarify, would this recommendation be including staff's recommendation of removing the cafe language from it?
And just leave it as restaurant, am I correct?
Correct.
Any other changes or amendments?
That's the only one.
Okay. Good. So it'd be-
With the amendment of removing cafes.
Seconded.
James, are we ready to vote?
Yes, Ms. Hall.
Oh, okay, James Galvin,
Yes.
Renee Burgess,
Yes.
Anthony Brown,
Yes.
Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
That's a unanimous vote.
One little line item that we forgot at the beginning, we didn't adopt the agenda for tonight. Could we have a quick motion to accept the agenda as written? There's no additions or deletions.
So moved, Chair.
Second.
James Galvin,
Yes.
Renee Burgess.
Yes.
Anthony Brown, Frank Fernandez.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on item 7B. In the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 31, zoning from 7920 Riviera Beach Holdings LLC, approving an application ZA-23-0009 to amend parking regulations, Section 31-244, in order to amend required off-street parking requirements for an RM-20 high-density multifamily zoning district, providing for applicability, conflicts, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Sermons, all yours.
Right, thank you again, Mr. Chair. So the second item is as well a applicant-initiated text amendment to the zoning code. This particular amendment is to the RM20 zoning district. The applicant, as you may recall, not the last meeting where we had the training, but the meeting before that, Project Celeste was before you, and there were multiple components to that project, and we advised at that time that there was an additional text amendment that was associated with that project along Military Trail at the northern boundaries of the city limits. So we discussed it briefly at that time, but it was not put up for a vote as additional conversations were taking place about what was proposed. So now, after further conversation with the applicant and staff, we are prepared to present to you this item and the staff recommendations. So at a high level, what the applicant is trying to accomplish is to make some modifications to the RM20 zoning district to allow it to better accommodate projects that are not taking advantage of intense vertical construction as is done in other places where the zoning district is utilized, but to modify it for locations primarily on the mainland where there may be more acreage for development, such as the Celeste project that you saw before. So this text amendment would allow for, in cases where the lot size is more than 5 acres and the property is west of Lake Worth, that instead of the requirement that 75% of parking is within a structure or parking garage, which again is common when you have high-rise buildings and on smaller lots and they're maximizing space. But when it's a larger property and surface parking makes more sense for development, that 75% of parking will not be required to be in a structure or in a parking garage, but there are still screening requirements for that parking from our major thoroughfares. So the text is proposed as for any projects east of Lake Worth or west of Lake Worth, which consist of less than 5 total acres, 75% of all required parking shall be placed under a permanent structure in a manner to effectively conceal such parking facility from the public right-of-way by landscaping and other means. Under C, new language would state, for any projects west of Lake Worth consisting of 5 acres or larger, all required parking shall be provided in a manner to effectively conceal parking from the public right-of-way by landscaping or other means, including, without limitation, hedging, fencing, or walls. The rest of the text would remain the same. So again, this is stating that larger parcels being developed west of Lake Worth could have surface parking, and as long as they still work to screen parking lots via walls and landscaping from our major thoroughfares, that they would not have to require 75% of them in a covered parking structure. So that's what this text amendment aims to accomplish, and it would be a primary component for the Project Celeste to move forward as was reviewed previously. So that is what's being proposed here. Staff is supportive of this text amendment. And if there are no immediate questions for staff, the applicant is here to provide their presentation and perspective on the request here.
Just to clarify, it is recommended by staff, correct?
Yes.
And they would still have to meet the requirements of the parking.
The number of parking, that is correct. This would not affect the amount of required parking, only the manner in which that parking is provided.
Basically, instead of a structure with an enclosed parking area, like a parking decks, you're asking it to be allowed surface parking throughout the development.
This text amendment would allow for projects to provide the majority of their parking on the surface as opposed to in a parking deck. And that would be applicable in anywhere this zoning district is allowed. This particular project is on, of course, a Military Trail. One of the things the applicant looked into was where other situations of RM20 zoning district existing in the city that could potentially be affected by this. So we looked into that. It would be a citywide text amendment, but it would allow for higher density development on larger parcels of land as opposed to the smaller parcels that we see on oceanfront property, which is primarily where the zoning district exists currently.
Burgess?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Sermons, is this an easier thing to do, changing the, rather than having a special variance for this special project?
No, staff would not recommend the variance process for this because there's not a hardship as defined by our code that would make them eligible for relief. This is a situation where it's simply our zoning code says the parking must be in a structure and you can't meet it. If you can't meet it, then you don't have the option of, going around it through a variance. So what this applicant has done with this project is said that our code isn't set up for high density development on larger parcels of land. And if we want to move in that direction, we would need to look at our high density zoning district to see what modifications would be required to allow a large parcel of land that wouldn't necessarily provide the majority of its parking in a structure to still develop in a manner where you would see similar projects to Celeste in the region. So a lot of them do have significant amounts of surface parking, but we would not want any instance where someone wanted to develop in this style for them to go to the variance route, which is set up for someone who has circumstances outside of their control that prohibit them from meeting the code, as opposed to the desire to do a different development that our code currently allows, if that distinction makes sense.
Thank you.
Chair, I do have one quick question. This is for Mr. Sermons. Has this project already went before City Council?
It has not. And this being an important component to that code, we had discussion with the applicant on making sure it all went before them at the same time. So we wanted to make sure this board had an opportunity to provide you a recommendation before we took any of the project to City Council.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, it kind of makes sense in a way, because if you do a structured parking at the end of the facility, the folks living on this side here will have a heck of a long walk from their residence to the parking structure. So it does kind of make sense. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, can we have a motion to approve the text amendment ZA 20?
Chairman, if I may, I think you might want to hear from the applicant.
Yes, I was going to suggest
Okay.
that.
To
as well.
give, so that they give you all additional input. Also, I want to make it clear, under item B, in the amendment, it says for any projects east of Lake Worth or west of Lake Worth, which consists of less than 5 acres, 75% of all required parking shall be placed under a permanent structure in a manner to effectively conceal such parking facilities from the public right of way by landscaping and other means. So 75% of all parking under the building under B. And then under C, you see there where it says for any projects west of Lake Worth consisting of 5 acres or larger. So I just want to make sure you see the distinction there between B and C. Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll make way for the applicant then.
Good evening, Hope Calhoun, Land Use Council for the applicant. So Mr. Sherman did a great job of expressing what we're looking for here. You might recall we were before you a few weeks ago to present what I think all of you thought was a great, most of you thought was a great project along Military Trail to revitalize that area. It was mentioned in the staff report that we would come back because we needed to address parking. And so what my client found when developing the parcel on Military Trail, and we had a lot of discussion with staff about the RM20 zoning designation and whether or not it was appropriate and how could we make it work, is that RM20 really focused on, as the existing code is written, on smaller parcels and likely anticipated high-rise type buildings. It did not anticipate, that's the RM20 zoning I'm speaking of, did not anticipate larger parcels like we have, over 15 acres, where you could spread the parking out and you don't have to build structured parking on top of a high-rise. So we're not building a high-rise on Military Trail. We're building lower scale buildings and then surface parking it. And so all we're saying is we recognize that no one wants to look at a sea of parking. So from the right of way, so we're still requiring that we're still proposing that it gets screened by the appropriate screening, landscaping or what have you, but just doesn't have to be structured underneath the building. And again, that helps keep it at a lower scale. So as the city progresses and develops and people move in and development comes in, we are just trying to help create a code that encourages development in the city. So we would ask that you would please approve or recommend approval of our proposed language. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a presentation to view your proposed?
I'm sorry, I didn't put two.
A presentation so we can see what you're proposing.
It's the language that you have. I can show it.
Right,
if
but
you
I
guys
would
wanna
like
pull
to
it up.
see a
Sure.
visual. Yes.
We sent it, and I have a flash drive if not. Yes. Is that the right one? My eyesight is getting worse. I can't. I cannot. Thank you. Now I have to remember. So very briefly, this is the request that we're proposing. I think this is what you're asking, to see the words that we are proposing to change. And so again, as you have in your backup, this is the proposed language. And just so you can see, maybe this is also what you were asking, we have, you can see what we're proposing here. This is the an aerial color elevation showing the parking that cannot be seen from the right of way. So it's screened by either landscaping or the building. Is that what you were looking for, a picture, or were you looking for the words?
The visual of the picture.
I'm trying to get there. There we go. Thank you. Oh, I get to use the pointer. I can't see.
Oh, Mr. Sermon, just to clarify, if they didn't have this text amendment, then they couldn't have the surface parking. They'd have to build a structured parking somewhere on that facility?
They would have to adjust their design to make sure at a minimum 75% of parking is under a structure. As presented, there are parking structures in their design under those buildings, but the 75% is not a threshold that is met by the current design. So if this is not approved, then it would require a redesign. And of course, the applicant can figure out the best way to meet that requirement, but as presented, it would require this text amendment.
And I can tell you, if I may, and I can tell you that, again, as with this entire project, we had a lot of back and forth, and our design team, I am a lawyer, not an architect, but the design team looked very closely at this and how they could accomplish creating this particular project with the code as it's currently written. And the determination was, quite honestly, they said, we can do it, but it won't look good. So in an effort to just, again, we recognize this is something new in the city in terms of dimension and location. So their effort is to present the best project and put their best foot forward. So again, we are asking, again, you saw the project a few weeks ago, and I believe you liked what you saw. You see it again here, one graphic, one elevation, colored rendering rather, which shows you what we're proposing. So we would ask that you would approve it so that we can continue to move forward with this and bring new housing into the city.
Questions, Ms. Burgess?
No, I don't have any additional questions. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Brown?
No questions.
Mr. Sermon, just to clarification, this has been submitted as text amendment ZA 230009?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Unless there's any other questions from anyone. Do we have any comments from the public on this, by the way? We received anything? No? Okay, thank you. Before we proceed, do we have a motion to approve the text amendment ZA 230009 as presented by Mr. Sermons and the representative from the developer?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Frank Fernandez,
Yes.
Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown,
Yes.
Renee Burgess,
No.
James Gallen.
Yes.
That item is approved with Ms. Burgess dissenting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you. You too.
We're on item 7C. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, creating City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, Art in Public Places, providing for purpose, conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Chair, for this item, staff has been working for quite some time to effectuate an Art in Public Places program for the city. We've brought it before this board as well as City Council multiple times. So what we've done since the experienced Ms. Sunit Simon has joined our staff is really taking the helm on beginning to codify a Art in Public Places program into ordinance for the city. So if you would, I would yield the floor to Ms. Simon to make this presentation.
Evening, Chair, and good evening, members. Sunid Simon, Development Services, and I think I need to do a song and a dance, so that way it downloads. I apologize, I sent the wrong one earlier. There we go. So today we'll be talking about art in public places. And a really exciting aspect to placemaking here in the city. Open in PowerPoint. Yeah, there you go. As things are developing and our community is growing, this is one of our great ways of jazzing it up, making us feel at home, ways to bring our culture here in Riviera Beach to be shared with those outside and to be shared with one another. And so today I'll be talking about art in public places. Oh, I kind of wanted to, let me do a little back. This little flamingo, if you guys know him, is in the Tampa airport, one of my favorite places to take pictures. And so I just had to show that. Haha, next. All righty, what is art in public place? Art in public places, as you know, can be different things. It's what the community decides as to how do we want to display ourselves? How do we want to present ourselves to those around us, as well as what represents who we are. And so, as you know, we are bringing forward, we are starting to a continuation of a conversation that has been had in the past. In November, I'll do a little bit of this before I go into what happened in November. This is just an example of how art is used in West Palm Beach. As you guys travel around, you see different things happening around our different cities. And so I'm showing just a couple of what happens in the way they look. Some of them are murals, some of our ways are cleaning up spaces, some are monuments, some of them are cool, like the bears right here. You can have picnic with the bears. It's different ways to create place, different ways to express ourselves as a community. And this is just an example from West Palm Beach. Why public art is important. It's important because it energizes our public places, transforms places to make us feel like we are alive. We are in places that we love to live, and we love to live there, we work there, and we play there. And it creates public interaction. We start to ask questions, or we want to sit in different places where I didn't know my neighbor until we started talking about this, or we started to say, this is just a great place that we want to go on Saturday and just explore. And it creates this vibrant feel. It provides an opportunity to expand tourism. It inspires us to do more, and it beautifies our places. This is part of what we're wanting to do. We are adding places here to Riviera Beach, but we also want to beautify our city so that way our city continues to grow and evolve. This example is that of Orlando. Example in Delray, it adds another layer to the richness of the culture fabric that we have in our community. It can spur economic development through art education or art districts. The art district that you're looking at right here is Deuces Live in St. Pete. This is an economic development initiative that they're doing in St. Pete, but through art, people come every year to different festivities to just walk the city. I used to do this with my daughter. We just walk up and down the aisle, but this is what that art does, right? It improves the quality of life by enriching that environment, and it provides opportunity for reflection. Sometimes it's telling a story. What's our story? It's accessible for everyone to use because this is public art, and it's an integral way that increases the ongoing success of a city. As a city, we are trying to continue our success. So it just helps us to be, it's one of those building blocks to do just that. So what's happening here in the program that we're doing? This is ordinance. One of the things that they said was when we did the research, we found 5 integral items to this. One, we need to establish a strong ordinance, one that's able to tell us what is it, how are we using our program, what is our program, and why are we doing this? We have to establish a master plan. Now, our master plan, with the resolution that was adopted back in November 19 of 2021, our master plan is being asked for us to bring in consultants to help us to plan this. We'll be doing this plan with community members. We'll be doing this plan with subject matter experts. And this will be about a 6 to 8 month journey of our master plan. Right now, it's in the final stages for solicitation. We are just waiting for it to leave procurement and out to be solicited. Okay, so far we have a resolution, which is leading to the ordinance that we're talking about today, and we have a master plan that's in for solicitation. Part of a very strong program is that it has to actually have reliable funding sources. Today we'll be talking about those reliable funding sources. It's going to be a part of the ordinance that we're talking about in order to say we have a strong ordinance. Our ordinance tells us how we're doing this. Where are we getting the money for this? It also includes an art advisory board as well as a program facilitator. Those two will come, it's a little bit different purple, but those two will come through the master planning process that we're working on. The ask for this evening. We're asking for your consideration of approving this ordinance. Why? The ordinance, which is ordinance number 4245, it was read earlier, it's an ordinance to the city to add an additional chapter 32, which would be the art in public places, providing for the purpose, conflicts, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date of. What does it do? What does it say? Officially, we're establishing the City of Riviera Beach's Arts in Public Place program. Our goal is to encourage installations of high-quality public art throughout the city for the benefits of residents and visitors alike. 2, we have a list of definitions in order for clarification, so we're not confused as to what is it that we're talking about. Development Services shall serve as the original administrators of the program until we install a Arts and Public Places Committee. And overall, that committee will serve as advisors for implementation of the upcoming master plan that we'll have. We did a little bit of background in order to determine how the formulation of the ordinance would be. We looked at the different cities around us, and some of the things that we found was that the percentage that is taken from development, they use a variation of percentages coming from development dollars that are entering into the city. They have participation from the city itself. There's different ways that public projects participate into this. Private projects are able to participate in this as well, where we'll be using a percentage, that 1% or 2% or 1.5% or 100%, whatever you want to do. That percentage comes from those different types of development. Some have minimum thresholds, and some also have a maximum threshold. So we looked at different cities around Florida, predominantly around our area, and then outside of that had successful programs. And this is what we've come up for ourselves, based off of the way we are here in Riviera Beach. So this ordinance will be establishing various methods for projects to participate in the art program. So it'll be applicable for all development, redevelopment, reconstruction, and remodeling projects that are commenced after the adoption of this article, which has a construction value of over $50,000. The participation will be equal to 1% of the construction value of the project. Public and private projects will participate financially or in lieu. When we say in lieu, we're using that 1% that they would have used, that they would probably have put into a fund. They themselves can add their own art to their project, to their particular project that they have that would be equal to that 1%. City will contribute 1% of business tax receipt revenue into this fund. So we're taking from our business tax receipts that we receive, and we'll be contributing to the art fund as well, because we want to encourage art within our community. And we accept all donations, so get ready. The fifth thing that we're doing is we're establishing Arts and Public Place Fund account. Within this account, this fund, the funding that comes in, that 1% from our project values, will go into this account and can be only used for public art. It will be administered by Development Services until a committee is formed and the master plan is created in order to guide how we place art here in the city. And the sixth thing is all art using the public funds from the arts and public places or that are donated to the city belong to the city. And that is all.
No, not right now. No.
No questions really, just a comment. Long overdue. So I'm glad that we're moving ahead with something like this. That's all I have.
Mr. Brown?
Are you planning on having some kind of cap as a maximum or just straight 1%?
Straight 1%. But it's you are also could be part of that conversation if you believe
Yeah.
we need to have one.
No, I'm just wondering, I guess if you examine, the amount of dollars they're investing in, it's possible to have some kind of cap, I guess.
Some cities were able to have caps. Most cities did not have caps, but some cities do have caps. And I think those are cities that usually have higher projects, higher value projects,
Right,
where it can
right.
be an extreme amount that would
Right,
come
right.
in. Mhm.
I mean, that's what I'm expecting for
If
Riviera
I was
Beach.
putting a cap, it'd be infinity, but we can all.
Hey, if they can afford to build a $300 million project,
They
they
can
can
send-
chip in at 1%. My humble opinion. Not reflective of any of the city standard. No. Any other questions?
Thanks, no, that's it.
Yeah, there was one slide, Sneed, that
Yes.
showed the
It's
steps
disappeared.
of getting to it. So like if it's approved tonight, I know the slide where it talked about like the
Yes.
committee or the board.
The Art Advisory Board.
Yes, our
Yes.
advisory board.
Yes.
Do you guys already have guidelines in place for
We have draft guidelines in place.
Okay.
Yeah, but we haven't finalized them yet. We're hoping, one of our big hopes is that through our master planning process, our consultants will be drafting from other communities to see what are the best ways to have them, but we currently have something for them to work off of. And
Okay.
if you have any suggestions, we totally take them.
Okay, and then the last thing on that
Disappeared.
same slide,
It just,
that's okay. You probably know what I'm talking about anyway. It had a position, so is that also going to create a new staff position?
the idea is that that one is going based off of, that was what best research has said, is to have that position. A lot of these things, they take a lot of time and energy. And so it takes away from the other work that staff is doing. So a position would be ideal. A lot of the great arts that we see in the different cities around us, they have a specific position that's helping drive this to ensure that the committee is able to do what they're doing, but also to make some of those different decisions that could be done administratively.
And if I may add to that, Mr. Chair. Initially, the program, we wouldn't envision having the amount of resources and active projects to necessitate a full-time position. But as it grows, as the account and a number of projects coming in, the maintenance requirements of existing projects require someone to provide oversight to. Eventually, we see the need and best practices show that it's proper to have a person dedicated to it. But initially, we would not likely have a one person or a designated staff member for the project solely in that act.
So that wasn't included in this budget that was just passed?
No.
Okay, so it could be a ways out.
Correct. And currently in this ordinance, it does not discuss that position.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Great, thank you.
Well, I want to echo Ms. Burgess' comments on it's about time. Everywhere I've traveled, New Orleans, Houston, everywhere, Miami, they all have this public art, and it's really nice.
It's that big draw.
It's that big draw, especially in public areas where families can enjoy it on the weekend. Just a little getaway.
Do you remember do you remember? But in Chicago, they have like the,
Yes, been there,
the
yeah,
globe.
exactly.
and you're
Yes.
just kind of like, what exactly is it? But we all show up anyways.
You're
Yeah.
talking about
They
that,
take the pictures
the
of it.
mirror
Yes,
globe?
yes,
Yes.
I understand.
Yep.
Yes. Now, Mr. Servants, I got a question for you.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The projects that we've already approved that have not made it to city council yet to approve, would they be included in this 1% contribution? Remember, they haven't been approved by city council yet.
Correct. This ordinance, and we'll double check, but the fee is a fee that is included at the construction permit phase of a project. So many projects, although they may have some things they pay during site plan approval, when they come in for construction permits, there are multiple fees, including the permit fee, but you'll have impact fees. Art in public places would be an additional fee that they pay at the point of permitting. So it would likely, when it's passed, any projects that come in for permitting after is when this would be applicable.
Well, the projects that we've approved thus far, like today's project that we approved that has not been before the council,
Correct.
the 255 multi-unit, would they be included in the 1%? They haven't submitted the permits yet.
It depends on when they submit for permit.
Okay, so the faster this ordinance gets put in there, safe harbor,
Can get more money.
hey,
Get that money. huh?
get that money. That's a good. Just. my
Everyone
humble
wins.
opinion again.
It's public arts.
It's for the, it's good. It's a
Greater good of the
deed.
public.
I'm sure they would not mind contributing, and believe me, they'll probably deduct it off the taxes anyway. Public
Yes,
donation to the arts. Do we have any other questions? Okay, as I see it, we're approving ordinance 4245, added to chapter 32, the art in public places, as explained by our wonderful Sanid before us, and we've had a chance to discuss it. Am I correct on that, Mr. Sermons? Did I read it correctly for the vote?
Yes, you did.
Perfect. Do we have a motion?
So
Mr. Chair,
moved.
Yes.
before we go into motions, can we clarify whether we got any comment cards? Just put on the record. I know we had a note earlier this evening.
There are no public comment cards.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for reminding us.
And that was a so moved on the ordinance approval.
Second?
Seconded.
Renee Burgess,
Yes.
Frank Hernandez,
Yes.
James Gallo,
Yes.
Anthony Brown.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Moving on, we have no workshop items. Am I correct with the sermons?
None today, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any public comments for tonight were sent in or anything?
There are no public comments submitted.
Now we go into the staff updates, comprehensive plan update.
And it's me again, Sunid Simon, Development Services. Doing the song and dance. No. Not this one. Uh-oh. Well, I'll be discussing today about the comprehensive plan and where we are as a city. There we go. You had it open. Go back to where it says Home 365. Oh no, never mind. I'm sorry. You can go back to your mail. I apologize, Walter. There you go. It says 1012 right there. Correct. I caused this issue. I sent the wrong information earlier. I do apologize. We have a short update for today because our update is an emphasis on what we have been working on, which has been, we are in the writing phase of our drafts for our comp plan. So that way we can have something to start to show for all of our community meetings that we've been having. You can go to next slide, Sunid. So currently we're trying to articulate the vision that we've been collecting. As you all know, that we have been going through a robust effort in order to collect the ideas of our community members. We have not stopped, but we are taking what we have thus far and we're starting to put it into words, what is being said. We're also looking at the words that you all have brought to us, as well as the steering committee, and we're trying to, and we've brought last time some of our ideas of what would look like as our principles for our comp plan. And now this is turning into a draft of what our plan will look like. So we're taking what people have said, we're putting it into words, and then we're doing deeper dives with some of the subject areas that we might not be too sure of, or our consultants need a little bit more of. And so right now they're interviewing as well as emailing subject matter experts about the ideas that were shared. For example, if someone was talking about, we need better sidewalks. And now our consultants are going into the community, talking to our different experts within our community, so our city engineer, or talking to utilities, different things like that, and saying, how feasible is this? What do you feel has been happening? What are some of the plans that we already have for this? And so they're doing that deeper dive for this conversation. One of my favorite things that we talked about, and you guys kind of talked about it earlier today, was on, or maybe it was somebody else's conversation, but it was on just like urban forestry. Talking about how are we keeping our spaces cool? How are we beautifying our streets that we already have? And how do we ensure that we have this aspect of conserving our space? And so we were talking about, I know one department is doing this. How do we make it something that we're all doing? How are we encouraging this? And how do we put this into the text? And so that's what we're working on right now, is drafting that first draft for all to comment on. I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of outline of, we're going to be adding an executive summary to our comp plan. Not saying I don't want you to read the whole thing, but we have this aspect to it where it would be kind of a briefer aspect to the comp plan where everyone would be like, at least I read the 3-page summary to help me understand the intent behind our different elements in order to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And so parts of it are going to talk about what is the comprehensive plan. So that way, this is something that we're just talking about when we're on the street. Yeah, that comp plan thing, right? Everyone will actually know what we're talking about. a community. It's going to be ensuring that everybody sees how it's a community-driven plan. We're going to put in what the community has says. We're going to show pictures of the community participating in order for us to continue that spirit of having community-driven plans, right? What can that comprehensive plan do for us here in the city of Riviera Beach? So we're going to be pointing towards how this helps us. Okay. And then it'll have our guiding principles in order for us to jump into the actual plan itself. Oh, this is terrible, Saneed. I apologize. Don't look at it. You're going to strain your eyes, but I'll let you know what it says. So for the next month, we'll be having our outreach goals. We'll be working, and we started doing this this week. Things are a little stressful, so I've only done about one, but we'll be meeting more with our religious and nonprofit community. I felt one of the things that we've been through in our outreach, yes, we meet different individual folks, but I want to actually go make sure that we're meeting the church. We're meeting different organizations and all the members that work in there in order to have a better relationship and to ensure that the work that we are presenting in our comp plan, it aligns with the folks that actually do the hands and feet here in the community as well. And on top of that, the folks that do the hands and feet is that we'll continue to do more outreach to our business community. I need to do it. My goal is to do something by the end of this month or early November in order to really push out our business community. We've participated in activities within the last month that included our business community, but we'd like to actually have our own. And we'll be sending sending an email to our community members that have signed up onto our constant contact about what current updates are happening, just to kind of help them remembering that we are still in this process. We're a little dormant right now, but we are still at this, having this done, and we'll be participating in the month of November in a mayor-led community event. Like I said, it's a short update, but it's a healthy update because we are in the middle of writing. But if you happen to have any questions, comments, and please tell us what you want us to make sure if you forgot to say something, this is a good time to do that.
I'm good.
I do have just a brief couple of questions. Religious and nonprofit in the business community, really like that. I know we have the ARC that's located in our community right here off of, was it Australian? So hopefully they're one of our community partners that, we reach out to them as far as their clients who live here in the city of Riviera Beach and how we can reach that community as well.
Okay. Yes. Excellent.
Okay. And then for business community or community partners, schools are included, our area schools in that?
Our area schools, they've been really tough. And I don't know if it's because a lot of the rules that have been put onto schools. So I constantly will send random emails hoping someone, and I've walk in, but it's kind of like, what are you doing here? You're not a real visitor. But I think I just need to know people. If you guys have better contacts and you can kind of do it saying this is Saneed and what she's trying to do, that'd be extremely helpful. But it's been difficult doing a cold call because even though I say who I am and I work with the city, it's like, yeah, I know this teacher can help you, but then the teacher's overwhelmed. So I never get a right back. Yeah.
So a suggestion I would have to, that may remedy that, get a list of their SAC nights, and you'll have an audience of at least the principal, maybe even the vice principal, and
like a public comment time.
Correct.
Excellent.
Where community partners can come in and give a brief presentation. You probably need to ask to be put on the agenda.
SAC,
But
the SAC. Okay.
Yes. That's the best opportunity.
Thank you. That's an excellent.
As I've stated before, the only thing I really would like in the plan is our open space,
Yes.
park and recreational space.
Yes.
And also the protection of our Lake Worth and our ocean. Those are our money-making, drawing. We can't kill that.
We had a great conversation with, there's a specific consultant that's working on all those areas that you just commented on. And we had over about 2 hours of a conversation on just pulling our pulling our parks plan and helping her see what the plan was trying to say and how and some of the language that they wanted to change within the comp plan in order to allow us to have stronger parks, in order for us to have more covered parks, as well as our beach and how we actually organize who's in charge of taking care of our beaches, and our conservation efforts that we're doing around all of our natural resources, on the east side as well as throughout the west side.
Right now, as far as maintaining our beaches, we had there was a derelict vessel on North Ocean Drive. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
there
there's
in
a
March,
couple of 'em.
and everybody was pointing the finger to each other as to
Who's
who was
supposed to take
responsible
care of it?
to pick it up. And I'm like, we'd be like, you got tourists that come here, people that spend a lot of money to come to our beaches. They don't need to see a derelict vessel on the sand for so many months, spewing all that gook inside a vessel onto the ocean, onto the beach. And there's still remnants all over the beach for that. It was a joke. To be honest with you, it was a joke.
It's a difficult thing for cities because you're trying to figure out, is it the city? Is it the state? Is it this county? And no one wants
It's
to
the
because
police
expensive.
department.
Good luck with that one.
So if I
But she
could
has
just
the remedy.
elaborate, because I do work for the tax collector and that's part of what we do. We do have a procedure for derelict vehicles and vessels. So you call and you have it towed, and then there's a procedure that takes place where they try to get in contact with the owner. If an owner isn't found, if it isn't claimed, then it's disposed of by sale, whatever means. But anything that's derelict, abandoned, vehicle, vessel, trailer.
It's our police that's supposed to do it?
Correct. They tow it.
In this case, the chief was aware of it and is still there. And I'll leave that there. So
I'm not going to touch it.
It's just that we need to make sure that if we look at the city as a whole, we need to see where are the gaps. And that's a gap. Along with our open areas, our park areas, the art that you brought up today. Thank you so much for working on that. So there's a lot of gaps that we need to fill in addition to what do you desire and what are the issues that we have now that we haven't really figured a way to tackle them. Make sense?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Anything else?
Let me clarify that. I said the police, they don't tow it, but they authorize
To
a
have
tow.
it towed.
Correct.
Any correspondence, Mr. Sermons, that you're aware of?
None from staff.
Do we have any planning and zoning board comments from anyone on anything? From staff?
See,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We come back on November 9th?
According to this, November 9th, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's it.
If there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn at 7:33 PM tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?